You're listening to the Old Town Road Podcast, a production of the Unified Republic of Daniel Media Department, sponsored by Fort Bend Independent School District, the National Public Radio, HarperCollins Publishers, Avon Fiction Publishers, Scholastic Publishing, Southwest Book Company Publishing. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello, I'm your host of the Old Town Road Podcast. Today we have an interesting topic with us. It's a book called Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury.
The author describes the book as the incomparable masterwork of the dark fantastic. Let's read what some publishers have to say about it. A master, Bradbury has style all his own, much imitated, but never matched, by Portland or Oregonian. And Bradbury is an authentic original by time. Let's read the summary on the back of the book, just to start us out with. The carnival rolls in sometime after midnight, ushering in Halloween a week early. The shrill siren song of the Calliope beckons to us all with the seductive promise of dreams and youth regained. In this season of dying, Cooper and Dark's Pandemonium Shadow Show has come to Greentown, Illinois, to destroy every life touched by its strange and sinister mystery. And two boys will discover the secret of its smoke, mazes, and mirrors. Two friends who will soon know all too well the heavy costs of wishes and the stuff of nightmare. Few American novels written this century have endured in the heart and memory as Ray Bradbury's unparalleled literary classic Something Wicked This Way Comes. For those who still dream and remember, for those yet to experience the hypnotic power of its dark poetry, step inside. The show is about to begin.
Hello, so we're going to be touching on a few topics from plot to character analysis. I think we'd like to start off discussing how the plot of Something This Way Comes turns out. So you've already heard the summary. I think we'd like to elaborate.
Hello, I'm Rohan. Today we'll be talking about, as he specifically stated, plot, character analysis, and others. So basically, William Holloway and James Nightshade live in Greentown, Illinois, and they're both 13-year-old boys, and they're going to turn 14 within a week. So basically, they encounter this salesman that warns them that the storm is coming. So he gives them a lightning rod to protect them from the storm, and then they go to the library. They run into Will's father, which is very controversial, as they did not expect this. He now works as a janitor. Now I'll let Aiden elaborate some more.
Both Charles Holloway and the boys learn about the carnival that will start the next day. Jim and Will show great contentment towards the carnival shows as it come late in the year, hence Halloween. Charles Holloway's fear builds up, and Will senses the tension before the feelings are mixed towards the carnival. Jim fears nothing and is ready for adventure, differing with Will's tension.
The train arrival at 3 a.m. signifies that the carnival is in sight. The boys go the next day to explore the carnival, and they help their 7th grade teacher, Miss Foley, who panics inside the mirror maze. Later in the day, Jim gets stuck as well in the mirror maze, and Will must pull him out. A huge man later grabs Will and Jim and insists that the merry-go-round is broken. Another man tells him to put them down. He introduces himself as Mr. Dark, our antagonist for the story, and tells him that the other person's name is Mr. Cougar.
Mr. Dark is the illustrated man. Tattoos conceal his true personality, and he pays attention only to Jim, whose captivity is at its peak by what he sees. Mr. Dark tells them to come back the next day, and the boys run off, but then hide and wait. When Mr. Cougar rides backwards on the carousel, and when he steps off, he is 12 years old. The boys are in a state of shock. When Will arrives at the carnival, Mr. Cougar is on the carousel, growing older, and Jim is about to join him. Will knocks the switch on the carousel, and it flies out of control, spinning rapidly forward. As Mr. Cougar ages over 100 years old before the carousel stops, Jim and Will leave immediately. We would like to have a little break, commercial break.
Alrighty, let's go into thanking our sponsors for making this podcast possible. First, we'd like to start off with some more testimonials about the book by Ray Bradbury. Ray, without your hard work, this podcast would have never happened, and we thank you for your work of literature. Let's begin with what people have to say about you. Apparently, you're a master storyteller by Fresno. Ray Bradbury can evoke nostalgia for a mythic golden part or raise goosebumps with tales of horror. He is good at what he does by the Chicago Tribune. Let's move on to talking about our sponsors. This podcast is made possible by Germax. We'd like to acknowledge additional sponsors such as Germax, moisturizing original hand sanitizer that kills 99.99% of germs. In addition, we'd like to acknowledge the Heinz industry for supplying tomato ketchup. Thank you, Heinz. 57 varieties. Let's move on to another sponsor. We'd like to thank Howard Edward Butt for providing quality idolized salt from HEB Industries. This is the best in seafood department at HEB. Go to HEB to buy your crawfish anytime this weekend. Thank you very much, and we would like to return to your podcast.
Okay.
Welcome back to Old Town Road.
Now continuing with the summary. Mr. Cougar ages over 100 years before the carousel stops. Jim and Will leave immediately. They return with the police, but Mr. Cougar is nowhere to be found. Inside the tents, he is set up as a new act, Mr. Electro, a man they run electricity through. Will tries to keep his father out of the situation, promising that he would tell all soon. The night the Dust Witch comes in her balloon to find Jim, however, Will's cleverness outsmarts her and destroys her balloon. The next day, the boys see a young girl crying and realize after talking to her, it is Miss Foley. They go to her house, but when they come back, their path is blocked by a parade. The carnival is out searching the streets for them. They hide and the girl is gone. Will's father uses his senses to find them hiding in an iron grill in the sidewalk. The boys convince him to keep quiet because the illustrated man comes to talk to him. When the witch comes and begins to sense the boy's presence, Charles Holloway blows cigar smoke at her, choking her and forcing her to leave. Mr. Dark asks Charles Holloway for his name, and Will's father tells him where he works and who he is. Later that night, Will and Jim meet Mr. Holloway at the library, where he has done his research and found out some things about the carnival. He tells them their best weapon is love, but they are not sure how to fight. At the carnival, Charles Holloway outsmarts Mr. Dark, finds his son, kills the witch, and destroys the mirror maze in a matter of minutes, all using his laughter and happiness. Then he and Will search for Jim. Mr. Cougar turns dust and blows away before he can be saved at the carousel, and Jim moves towards the merry-go-round. Jim's urge to ride is quickly prohibited by Will. They both end up going for a ride before Will jumps off and rips Jim away from the machine. Jim falls into a supper and almost dies. A child comes begging to help them, but Mr. Holloway recognizes the boy at Mr. Dark. He holds the boy tight and kills him with affection, because Mr. Dark cannot survive in such close contact with someone good. The carnival falls apart as Will tries to revive Jim. They save Jim by singing and dancing and laughing. Further happiness brings him back to life from the edge of death. Now Aiden will take it away with the theme.
One of the main themes of this story is good versus evil. As you can see, the protagonist must defeat Mr. Dark and the evil carnival by showing love and affection.
And that is a clear example of one of the 7th grade teaks, which is the hero's journey, which we spent last year being focused on.
That is correct.
The hero's journey is actually present in the novel. We can see that our protagonist and our antagonist are going through the hero's journey in order for everything to work out in the end. This is a reminder that you're listening to Old Town Road. Something Wicked This Way Comes episode.
Now I would like to ask some questions. So, what in the story what is Charles Holloway's personality that symbolizes the theme? How does he express the qualities of a hero?
Think about that question during our commercial break when we come back. This podcast is sponsored by Bigelow Tea. It's easy being green. Here at Bigelow Tea, our commitment to the environment is a top priority. Each of our facilities has a dedicated green team focused on identifying ways to become more environmentally sensitive, from installing solar panels at our headquarters to enforcing company-wide composting, and recycling programs. We were thrilled when our 3 manufacturing facilities recently achieved zero waste to landfill status. We are extremely proud to the fact that in 2003 we purchased the Charleston Tea Plantation in Wadmarkle Island, South Carolina. We were able to preserve 127 acres of beautiful tea bushes. The tea produced from these bushes are used exclusively for a little lineup of teas called American Classic Tea. Today, the farm is thriving and has over 60,000 visitors a year. At Bigelow, we are 100% committed to protecting the environment now and for generations to come. This podcast is also sponsored by Hewlett-Packard for providing printer toner cartridges. Without your help, we would not be able to print out scripts or print out any materials needed to film this podcast. In addition, we'd like to thank Howard Edward Butt for providing quality black pepper, a treat for your taste buds. In addition, we'd also like to thank our author, Ray Bradbury, and Mission Tortilla Trips for providing adequate hospitality for us all and for keeping us alive. In addition, we'd like to thank Niagara for providing purified drinking water. Alrighty. And we'd like to welcome you back to our podcast, Old Town Road, where we continue to discuss Rohan's question. Rohan, if you could remind everyone of your question.
The question was, what is Charles Holloway's personality that signifies that he is the hero and the main protagonist, and how he kills with love and affection? What provides this hero with the ideas necessary?
In the beginning of the book, right, he thinks of himself as old, and he's wishful that he was young again, and is not satisfied or about what he has done in life. And he's, quite depressed. But as the story progresses, right, he has to learn to show more love and affection and accept who he truly is in order to defeat Mr. Dark and the evil carnival. Mm-hmm. And he shares this with Jim and Will, as they have opposite opinions throughout the story, so they could connect and make their relationship stronger, embracing the theme of good versus evil.
And that was our position on character analysis. Then I'd like to ask another question. So if we focus on our main protagonist, which is Will's father, and discuss how they change from the beginning of the novel to the end. Who are they, and what is their background? What forces them to change throughout the novel? And I'd like to start by answering that question. I believe that the antagonist, Mr. Dark, is conducting change throughout the novel by bringing evil. And through the hero's journey, a hero must step up and be initiated to take the stance of the protagonist in today's story. So without Mr. Dark initiating the entire hero's journey, then Will's father would not have been the protagonist of today's story. Would anyone else like to add on that?
Speaking of Charles Holloway, he was originally introduced as one of the characters he was introduced as a father, someone that was aging, someone that wishes to be young, doesn't have as much energy, someone that has experienced the past. Unlike the 2 sub-characters of Will and Jim, who are young and who have extreme energy and think like each other, but they are polar opposites. So he changes through the novel to a character that respects and accepts himself, and what happens and how he changes throughout the books focuses around the characters of Mr. Dark and the evil carnival. And the carnival runs on scaredness or intimidation.
I agree with that, yes. There's a whole reason why this novel is perceived in a horrific connotation, why this novel falls under horror.
Dark fantasy.
And love and affection and obviously laughter will slowly wear down and defeat the carnival and Mr. Dark, because they cannot...
Hence the theme of good versus evil.
Yes.
Alright, let's move on to our next point, which is the theme explored. But before we move on to the next point, I'd like to acknowledge another one of our sponsors, Hewlett-Packard print cartridges. You can count on original HP print cartridges. They are specifically designed for your HP printer to bring you consistent, trouble-free printing. Once again, I'd like to acknowledge Bigelow Green Tea for providing us today with herbal supplements. We'd also like to thank the Woodlands Convention and Visitors Bureau for providing this wonderful cowbell. We'd also like to thank some of the teachers at this school for providing us adequate places to record. Thank you very much, and we'd now like to return to the podcast.